dying strong out there in the streets every single day. I got you. Yeah.
I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight. As that alarm clock beeps, it wakes you from your sleep. Pull back the sheets. It's time to hit the streets. Dudes, fresh shave your face. Girls, put up your hair. Back breaking and aching from the equipment that you wear. Face to face with your locker, strapping on your vest. Pray to God it'll block a hollow point from your chest. Join up with the squad, that's the crew of the night. Here again, our evil man took another life. Got a price on your head, brother, better beware. Load up that Glock and prepare yourself for warfare. Sweat drips to the concrete in this dead heat. Load up that Crown Vic and get back up on the beat. Ridicules what you get, not even a damn handshake. As the sun sets on that city landscape, nothing can stop you, snow, rain, or thunder. Gotta hold that blue line tight, you're the wolf hunter. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. No words can express the lack of respect. No arrest of a suspect's unchecked. They say you ain't shit and you always tell lies. It's so quick to pick up and call when victimized. Riots and protests, it's always us they blame. It's expected, not regretted when a hero cop is slain. Never freeze up in fear when everyone's stomachs in knots. Who else you know running towards a gunshot? You know you're not alone. Take a look around. Look past the hate that you feel surrounds your town. The civil unrest, it needs to be addressed. So obsessed with judgment in the form of protest. So quick to judge and point fingers and blame. Over rifles and knives, and yet we can't take aim. In the streets and the chairs, they can't be muted. We're on the marches when a hero cop is executed, huh? I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. Every push-ups for justice, each sit-ups for peace. Yet prepared for that battle waging up in the streets. Push the memories aside, keep the hate out of sight. Always on prowl for evil that lurks within the night. They said God made shepherds so that he could protect the flock. To overwatch and keep track of those that he's lost. When evil brings the fight, you know it's outnumbered. Sink your teeth in his back, you're the wolf hunter. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to fight. I will defend my brothers, I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite, bring it on. It's time to
I'm a retired first sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Joined the Marine Corps in 1972 to 1992. My MOS was an 03-11, and then a first sergeant when I retired right after Desert Storm. What got me here to Idaho was my son, who was a police officer in San Diego for 11 years. He was in a gang unit for 9-10 years straight before he transferred to the Northern Division in San Diego. From there, he wanted to get out of San Diego because he was pulling his gun almost every night. He was on TV a lot, he did a lot of things, he saw a lot of things. And he said he had to get out of there and go to somewhere where he thought was a better place to be an officer. And that's what brought us here from San Diego to Idaho. Matt was a police officer for 11 years, and he wanted better quality of life. So he applied for the Meridian Police Department here in Idaho, and he got the job, and we followed him here because he had two kids and our grandkids, and we wanted to be around our grandkids. So we followed Matt and his sister came. Her husband's a fireman, and we all ended up here in Idaho. And after 2 months of Matt's training, he was getting ready to move on. But there was an incident happened where Matt did something and it got into his head. Not exactly know the details of it, but after moving here, he felt so much pressure, even after being a veteran and as a police officer of 11 years in San Diego with the gang unit. This incident caused him that he felt under pressure of who he was as a police officer. He started to doubt himself, and not knowing anybody, coming from San Diego to, he felt like a small town. He had 200 police officers in San Diego to 200 police officers in Meridian. He felt a lot of pressure of not knowing anybody, starting over again, not having the confidence, because this one incident, he didn't think he can tell anybody about it, what he was going through. And that's kind of what started it all. Him starting to doubt himself through this incident where he thought he was a bad cop. And it got into his head. And we didn't see the struggles that Matt was going through, but his wife did. And she didn't let us know too much, except as it was getting worse, his anxiety, depression, and the biggest thing is he wasn't sleeping. And Kristen told us, Matt's wife told us, Matt's really struggling. And I talked to Matt. Matt and I are very close. We did everything together through his whole life, from high school football. Well, he was my son. And motorcycle riding, and we came here thinking, oh man, we're gonna get the outdoors. We have the freedom of Idaho, not like California and all the regulations of riding and shooting and all the stuff that we liked. He was struggling, and Kristen told us about it, and I asked him, Matt, what's going on? And he said he was just having a hard time, and he wasn't having fun anymore being a police officer. And then as it was getting worse and he was not sleeping well, or not sleeping at all, I said, Matt, what's going on? He goes, I can't sleep. I go, why can't you sleep? My brain hurts. My head hurts. And I didn't understand it. What do you mean your head hurts? And I'm just being real because I talked to him. I didn't understand. How does your head hurt? I never could comprehend your head hurting. You know, it's not a broken arm or anything else, but your head. And I understand you can't sleep sometimes because you're constantly thinking of something, but he really said his head hurt. And for Kristen, my wife Karen, we didn't understand that. But Matt kept on saying, you can't tell anybody. Don't say anything. I don't want to lose my job. I just got here. And after being an 11-year police officer, he didn't know what to do. And he couldn't go to his chief or his lieutenant or a captain or anybody or sergeant and say, hey, I'm having problems with depression. I'm not sleeping. I have anxiety. What are they going to do? Hand me your gun. Can't go on. It's a liability. He would tell me that. I can't take a pill for anxiety because I can have a piss test of a drug. So he was stuck. He couldn't ask for help. He didn't feel like he could ask for help. And it just kept getting worse. He went 2 weeks without sleep. And that's where the downfall came, and was struggling with it of what do I do? And they would get in some arguments of, Matt, you've got to tell somebody or quit your job. This is not worth it. But he didn't talk about suicide. He never said, I'm suicidal. He never said it to me. I don't think he ever said it to Kristen. But he was hurting that bad. And he would just constantly be awake. And she would try everything, melatonin, everything.
Guys, today is a special day for us because today we're going to inaugurate, and thank you, Benny Cruz, our producer. He's not with us. He's not feeling well today, but for putting this video together that we're going to watch. But before, we're going to have a part two of Mr. Enderling talking about his son, Matt, who was a San Diego police officer. I don't know if you remember him. Doug, do you remember him?
I remember. I know the name, but I don't recognize the face.
He was in GST right now. You'll see a lot of pictures about him. But guys, I think that one of the main reasons why we created this channel, all of us created this channel, was to bring in legends, to talk about their legendary stories, to honor them. But it was also created as a prevention tool to help police officers, military, nurses, pastors, people in general suffering from PTSD. As you could see in the video, here's his father talking about his son. And I think that let's address that issue. Does PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, does it exist today in police departments? And we'll start off with you, Chief Chalo. Tell us about your department and your experience with PTSD, and we'll have a conversation about that, and then we'll get into the video, and then we're gonna introduce our new monthly video, The Forgotten Heroes. Go ahead, Chalo.
Well, it sucks to see that, and we all go back to our careers, and one of the big stigma was you never told anybody that you were feeling suicidal. You never told anybody you were feeling depressed. You don't tell people that, because as an administrator, as a sergeant, as like that, what is the first thing you want to do? Is get this guy help, right? Unfortunately, the laws back then and everything back then is you would put this guy in admin leave, which made things worse, because at that point, all he's thinking about, and what I used to see was, am I going to lose my job? I'm probably going to lose my job. They're not thinking about, you know what, I got a lot to live for. Married, I have kids, or I'm not married. I have my mom, my dad. I got a life. I got all my friends here at work that care for me. I live a pretty good life until whatever incident happened triggered something in this person, and he could never get it out. Nobody to talk to at home. Not having anybody understand the stuff for you, or at the same time, my guys never wanted to go tell their wives what's going on because it's too ugly. Whatever happened, it's too ugly. As a department in Calexico, we're lucky enough that we never had anybody commit suicide in Calexico. Well, while I was there, we had 3 guys retire out of that throughout my 32 years serving Calexico. And I see him now, the guys, and one of them, I see him a lot. And he always says, you know what, man? He goes, I'm glad I did what I did. At first, I hated it because, taking away my gun, my badge, everybody talking about, me being put in admin leave, and then me retiring. And the fact that I can't buy or carry guns now because the law prevents it from me owning anything like that, because the guy retired.
Chalo, did he retire back then? I don't know how far back we're looking at. Did he retire under stress? That's what it was called.
Yeah.
We do not acknowledge police officers having PTSD. I don't know if you knew that.
So he retired out of stress, and the other guys too. There were stress retirements, where you can't carry, dude. And as a cop, that's one of the biggest things that you don't want to lose is your identity. And
but the word PTSD did not exist back then.
No. PTSD, back then for police officers, and these guys that actually retired it was stress retirement, not post-traumatic stress. Not, hey, what led to this? What happened? What pushed you over the edge? How long have you had it? How many times did you contemplate committing suicide, or you didn't? I'm pretty sure these guys, the one that I talked to a lot, he told me, he goes, I thought about it a lot of times. I got close to it a lot of times, but something would happen, a phone call from somebody, something on TV came on, something that was said to me by a loved one, by a friend. And, it's like I had people that were looking out for me, but he never told anyone, bro. Anyone.
And Chalo, back then we didn't know about PTSD. I was one of the ones that would criticize guys that would retire women under stress. I would call them weak-minded. Whenever an officer was shot and they showed the camera where there's a female officer crying, I was at home cussing, saying, "What's the matter with her? She should be crying by herself. She's representing our department," not knowing that we suffer from PTSD. So I was one of those that criticized them before my transformation or my introduction to PTSD. Bobby, go ahead, Charlie.
Let me say something. So real quick, so if you fast forward it now to me becoming admin and then being chief, and one day I get this lady that if I could reach through the phone and friggin' throat punch her or choke her, I would have done it. She calls me and she says, "I want to talk to the chief." And nobody says, "You know what?" I said, my administrative assistant says, "You know what? I think you should talk to her. She's very upset. Doesn't want to talk to anybody. She's saying that one of your officers, multiple officers, were doing something very awful in public." And of course, well, shit, I want to know, what's going on. So apparently my guys go out to a calls fatality. They're on the side of the road, and my guys are laughing at the scene. But we've all been there when we laugh. It's not a laugh, but we're laughing at what happened is a nervous, how do I deal with this laugh?
A coping mechanism.
So the lady, I said, "Hey, you know what? How can I help you?" And I let her, she just goes off, man. And I'm like, I got to be level-headed. I wanted to interrupt her so many times, but I said, no, man, I got to let her vent. After she tells me everything, and she says how, if that's the leadership, that the department is displaying because of the leader, and man, that just kept on pushing my buttons. And to say, hold on, lady, I got something. I said, what happened at that cause? Well, I know it's a bad accident. Well, unfortunately, I said, these guys, most of these guys have never seen something so bad. I said, some kids died. And a lot of these guys have kids that age, and it really, really affected them. So there's two things that can happen, or three actually. The officer will start crying like a baby and lose all recognition of everything around him, officer safety, public safety. Number two, I've seen a lot of officers throw up a lot. Or number three, they start laughing. And it's a coping mechanism. It's not they're laughing at what happened. I said, I've seen officers leave scenes too of crimes. I mean, crimes or a back accident, and and you're like, "Whoa, where are you going?" And you don't find out later on till the guy's at the station, or he calls you and says, "Hey, Sarge," when I was a sergeant, "Hey, Sarge, man, I'm sorry I left, sir. I know you guys were code 4 at the time. You guys were okay, but man, I just couldn't handle this no more, and I had to leave." I said, "All right, cool." Then you go and you talk to him. But I told a lady about it with coping mechanism. It took me a good 15 minutes to kind of put all these other situations. I says, "Ma'am," I said, "we're not robots. We're not robots. We're human beings. We have feelings." And those guys that were there, man, these guys are good officers, man. I said, they've seen the worst of the worst. As a matter of fact, one of them was a vet. And I said, you know what? I said, maybe it triggered something from him from, the sandbox, being up there in the Middle East. Maybe something happened that triggered this guy to laugh, to whatever. I said, ma'am, I said, I can't get in their heads. I said, but I really appreciate you calling me, which I really did appreciate it, because then I pulled these guys in. I said, hey, man, what happened? And I wanted them to tell me, hey, you know what, Chief, man, we started laughing because we were so nervous. We just didn't know how to cope with this, but, we did our job. They did do their jobs, but for those 3, 4, 5 minutes that the car's passing by, she sees 3 guys laughing. So see, the public back then didn't know or don't understand that a police officer, firefighter, we're human beings, man. They expect for us to just keep on doing our work and just forget, the horrific scene that you just saw.
You know what, Chalo, just for clarification, those of you that are watching the show or listening to the show through Apple and so other channels, when we talk about laughing, don't think that we just get there and laugh. Somebody will crack a joke. Somebody will crack a joke about something that he's seen, and that's the mechanism that we use to basically fight the cry, fight, the I want to get away, fight or flight. That's what causes it. Bobby, tell us. Oh, go ahead.
David, real quick, like, so I remember I asked the guy, I says, "Hey man, so what were you guys laughing at?" And one of the guys says, "You know what? I made a smart aleck remark that, these people are all probably pissed off because they have to wait to get home." And then one of the guys, "Man, I wish I was home too, man." I said, "I don't want to be here, man. This sucks." And the other guy said something about, "Yeah, man, I'd be cooking some burgers right now." And they start laughing.
And that's what did it.
It
Exactly.
had nothing to do with that. The guy says, "Man, I'd be cooking some burgers and having a beer, and they say, yeah. And it wasn't even a laugh. It was just like a chuckle. But the lady happened to be going by, and that set her off. And said, "You know what, man, that sucks." And that's why officers don't really want to say anything, because it's, people are there to criticize and they're afraid to come out and say something.
Yeah. Bobby, tell us your experiences, things that you saw that you experienced with PTSD.
Well, I'm just listening to Chalo, what he's talking about, and I could feel a little bit of my eyes welling. Like, it's emotional hearing this, because you just remember back. You think, first of all, I never heard PTSD. I don't ever remember talking to anyone during my career that bothered me. This stuff would bother you, obviously. I never talked to anyone because I was afraid it would be perceived as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
And like what you said, I remember guys, we used to have the information desk at police headquarters. It's manned 24/7. They have officers manning that desk, and you're just sitting there waiting for the public to come in. And I remember guys volunteering to go there. And I remember thinking, what kind of coward, what kind of fucked up person would even volunteer? They couldn't force me to go there. I would, anybody that would go there. I remember talking to a guy that said that he had been involved. He didn't get in a shooting. He got in a real bad fight, got hurt, and said, "I just need to refocus," and he volunteered to go to the desk. And I remember thinking, I looked down on him.
Yes.
I was like, what the hell's wrong with him? But on the flip side, we're talking about, you'll see crime scenes. One of the things that really would stay with me, and I remember this, I got to a walking beat in the city housing projects. We used to ride 2-man cars because it's a housing projects. And the running joke was, if you want to get your authority challenge on a nightly basis, go to the walking beat. I worked nights. It was during the crack cocaine epidemic. And, it was kind of – we had the black projects and the Mexican projects. We had 2 different projects. One day my partner was off. I'm by myself. I got in a fight with a guy high on PCP. I thought I was going to have to just kill him. We rolled on the ground. I hit him with everything you have. I mean, I was 23 years old. I was in really good shape. I lost my radio, or I lost my baton. I didn't even try bass. I was hitting this guy over the head with a big Motorola radio, cracking him over the head. I put his arm behind his back. I could hear it, that sound like a chicken wing breaking, and he would not stop fighting. And he was trying to take my gun away from me. And when my backup got there, they beat the crap out of him. And I remember, I'm okay, I catch my breath. The next day when I hit the street, the first call I went to, I had a scared feeling because I hadn't gotten over that violent confrontation with this guy. And the first time I ran into, I told you, we used to get a lot of PCP in the projects that was coming from San Diego. If you guys would have done a better job, they would have come to us.
It was Doug's fault. It was Doug's fault. Benny's fault.
I read, you can tell when you run into somebody, they strip off their clothes, they get that catatonic stare. He was puffed up. This guy just got out of the joint, and me and my partner ready to go hands on. And in the back of my mind, I had this doubt. And it's a horrible feeling. And until we start fighting, then it's on. But I remember that bothered me. The doubt that you feel. I heard this, the father speaking in the video. You start to develop, bro, if you work what we do, especially if you're a hard charger, a high recapper, you have so much confidence out there. You're running around and you're not used to going out and having doubt, to feeling a little fear. We all feel fear. You feel fear, but it's a fear that keeps you alert. But to feel doubt, and I remember going home and it bothered me and I couldn't sleep. Like, am I losing it? What's wrong with me? But then eventually you shake it. The laughing part, you go somewhere. To me, one of the things that always stuck in my mind, being at a homicide scene and families showing up and finding out that their son, their father, their daughter was killed, and the screaming. You could hear that screaming from the family when they found out their loved one. And I remember I would go home. I could not get that out of my mind. And that's something that sticks. But before I hand it over to Doug, going through my career, I never talked to anyone about those feelings. Olvídate. That would be like suicidal. You would never even think of that.
Yeah.
And I remember there were times that, and I was very lucky at that time. Early in my career, very strong in my faith. But the other, I was drinking. I hardly drank in those days. Part of it, I was a new father. There's no way I could justify alcohol when I still had kids to feed. And at that time, we weren't making the money I was making later on. I remember I would just go home, put on workout clothes. I would go run, work out. But I was doing very little drinking. I'm thankful that I wasn't, because the alcohol can really affect and just really put those feelings on steroids, intensifies those feelings. But at the time, it was like I never talked to anyone about that. And but believe me, they were there. Those feelings were there. Those doubtful feelings were there. See where somebody, especially if somebody's going through family trouble, so maybe somebody's going through financial issues, and then you feel that the only thing you're good at is at work, and now that's falling apart. That is where I think somebody could go off the deep end. So, Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, I never heard of PTSD until I was deployed to Afghanistan. I started working with the military because it was common in the military. At least at that time it was common, but I never heard it in the police department. And I didn't know what I had suffered from early in my career. My partner and my teammates had gotten into 2 shootings, and on both instances, I wasn't there. I was on a family trip or something, and I always had that really guilty feeling that maybe if I was there, that the shooting wouldn't have happened, and they wouldn't, and they were all okay, but they wouldn't have been going through what they were going through. Because for those of you that don't know, when you're involved in a police shooting as an officer, it's stressful. I didn't learn this until I learned this from my partner at the time early on, but you're dealing with homicide, you're dealing with the DA's office, you're dealing with your internal affairs, and then ultimately you're going to get sued. I mean, there's a lot of stress, and it's not just a week later you're done with it. I mean, it can drag on for years for some of these guys. And I had this sinking feeling that, because I was young, and, I felt like, I could have done something maybe to prevent it. And thinking back now, it would have been the same result. It wouldn't have changed. But I really suffered with, I don't want to call it suffering, but I was really affected by that. So much so that I would have nightmares that I would get into a shooting, but I didn't have the strength in my hands and my fingers to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I could not return fire. I just couldn't. I would wake up screaming and sweating, and Kim would like, "Are you okay?" And I didn't want to tell her at the beginning, at the first, what was going on. And these went on for years. I mean, years, until I had left the PD, and then I'd gotten to the DA's office in Riverside. And when I got assigned to the Department of Justice as a task force officer through the DA's office, in 1 year, my team got involved in 5 shootings. 5 shootings. Hey, stop. Sorry about that. This is my stress release right here.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That's our mascot.
But we've gotten, that's our mascot. That's Finn, folks. Anyway, so we've gotten in 5 shootings in 1 year. And it was at that point that I knew that I could perform, that I was going to be, and my nightmares had stopped. But what I have to say is that the California Department of Justice at that time, they did a group setting with a psychologist, and then they did an individual with the psychologist. And you could see them as often as you want, and they would meet you because they were assigned to your group, your shooting incidents. And they would meet you for coffee. They'd meet you day or night. It didn't matter. And what I really appreciated was the fact that I wasn't a member of the California Department of Justice. I was with the district attorney's office, but they included me in all those meetings because I was a part of that team. But with that said, and then with I was in the color guard for San Diego PD for almost 15 years, and in the early 80s through the mid 90s, there was a lot of police officer deaths in the state of California and in the county of San Diego. And the color guard, we were the representative for the chief of police. So we would be sent to all the funerals to represent the department at these funerals. And I'd been to so many funerals that I could no longer stand to hear the bagpipes. I just couldn't do it. If I was at home and someone played the bagpipes, if I heard the bagpipes at a pub, if I heard the bagpipes anywhere, I would just break down and cry. I just couldn't listen to those anymore. I had to walk away from a unit I really enjoyed because we did all kinds. We didn't just do funerals; we did all kinds of events. But I just couldn't do it anymore. And and some of those were officers that had committed suicide, and you hear the stories, and it was horrible. I never had any of those thoughts myself personally, but I know that I know officers who did, and they would never come forward. They would talk to their partners, and their partners would come to me when I was a supervisor. But other than that, it wasn't occurring. You just didn't talk, like Chalo said, and like Bobby said, you just did not discuss that. And if you did, it was in a very private setting with someone you trusted immensely that would never share the information you were sharing with them. Because you didn't want to be labeled, you didn't want to go on the rubber gun squad.
Right.
And that's what it came down to. You want to be sent to the telephone report unit, and you're going to finish out your career there.
Right.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, guys, let's watch part 2, the last part.
Well, Matt did take his life, and by suicide, on duty. He was with his TO officer, was in the morning shift. He did a stop, and then right after that stop, he drove to St. Luke's Hospital to the emergency room. And in front of the emergency room, and the TO officer asked Matt, "What are you doing? Why are we here?" And Matt got out of the car and took the gun to his head and took his life. And he loved life. Matt loved life. If I could show you a picture of Matt, he had a smile on his face, and he did some great things in San Diego, delivered a baby. He made national news on a couple times on catching a criminal, homicide criminal. This baby was named after Matt and his partner. They named him Merrick for Matt and Eric. The guy was just a wonderful guy, but I never ever thought he could take his life.
Guys, before we continue our conversation, I don't know about you guys, man, but I got tears in my eyes. And I just want to introduce, this is one of our 2 videos that we're going to be playing every month, where we're going to be honoring our forgotten heroes. Every month, we're going to play these 2 videos.
Somebody save me from myself. I spent so long living in hell. They say my lifestyle is bad for my health. It's the only thing that seems to help. All of this drinking and smoking is hopeless, but feel like it's all that I need. Something inside of me's broken. I hold on to anything that sets me free. I'm a lost cause. Baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair. Life has shattered my hopes and my dreams. I'm a lost cause. Baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair. Life has shattered my hopes and my dreams.
What if the night sky was missing a moon? There were no shooting stars to use wishing on you. And all of my sorrows, I just washed them down. It's the only peace I've ever found.
All of this drinking and smoking is hopeless, but feel like it's all that I need. Something inside of me's broken. I hold on to anything that sets me free. I'm a lost cause. Baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair. Life has shattered my hopes and my dreams. I'm a lost cause. Baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair. Life has shattered my hopes and my dreams.
Wow. What do you guys think, huh?
Yep.
Wow, that's heavy, huh? You know,
Very much.
I never knew PTSD existed. After I retired in 2015, all of a sudden I was like a caged lion. I retired the next day, literally the next day. I retired on Monday. Tuesday, I went to Donovan, took my son to go see the prison, Donovan State Prison, where I used to work. On Wednesday, I had a knee replacement. After my knee replacement, I couldn't walk for first 2 weeks. I was under a lot of pain for 2 months, and I was like a caged lion, literally. like a caged lion. And all of a sudden, I started having these dreams that I never had before. I started having these anger that I used to have a lot of anger, but I just a lot of anger. And I just felt lost, literally lost. So after I healed, I told my wife, I go, I need something. I didn't know, but what I needed was an adrenaline rush because I was addicted to adrenaline. But I never knew because, like I was telling you guys earlier, we didn't know anything about PTSD. We were taught, at least I was taught, I was ignorant that only trigger pullers, only military combat veterans, not only just military, but combat veterans were the ones that suffered. They used to call them shell shock during World War II, during Vietnam. So PTSD came later. So I thought they were the only ones. So I didn't know. So I told my wife, I want to open a PI company in Mexico. She looked at me, she goes, Mexico? I go, yeah. And you know why Mexico, Chalo? Because I wanted to cross the border. And every time I'd cross the border, guess what, Doug? My adrenaline would come up. Yep. Every time I'd cross the border, subconsciously, my adrenaline would come up. Now I'm in Mexico, I'm in Cuernavaca, I'm in Yucatan, I'm all over the place. And every time I'm there, my adrenaline's pumping. Not knowing that I was addicted to adrenaline like all of us are, but not knowing. I come back. I lasted 4 years with my company. My company did very well. We made a lot of money. We did very well in Mexico. I come back. Now I moved to Florida to write a book, supposedly. And when I get to Florida, I'm walking on the beach. I get a phone call from a legend, San Diego PD legend, a detective who had just retired, I think after 32 years. I think after 32 years, he had just retired. He calls me 2 weeks. He had just retired 3 weeks before. And he goes, Sarge, he goes, I'm going crazy. And I'm walking with my wife on the beach. And as we're walking, I go, keep walking. He goes, I don't know, man. He goes, I miss kicking ass. Sarge, I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do. So I told my wife, keep walking. As she keeps walking, I go, so what's going on? And I sit down. I talk to him. Finally, I calm him down. He never talked about suicide. All he was talking about was, I missed the job. I miss kicking ass. And not literally kicking ass. He missed the adrenaline. Yeah. And as I'm talking to him, I go, listen, let me start doing some research to help you. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with this guy? Because I still didn't know it was the adrenaline. I didn't know anything about it. And that's when, guys, I started doing my research, and I found out, my research revealed that we as police officers suffer from PTSD. Pastors suffer from PTSD, doctors, nurses. And that's when I started my channel, and it happened to be during COVID. And I had all these nurses that were nurses at the Navajo hospitals in Arizona coming on my show, basically crying, saying that they were suffering from PTSD. And that's when I realized, guys, that we as cops suffer from PTSD. And guys, this ain't about me, but I just wanted to share my experiences. I want to hear your experiences. But let me tell you what happened. During my research, one of the things that I realized that we as cops, and my research showed me this, not me, I'm not intelligent, guys, but just interviewing a lot of people, reading, I realized that we as cops, we learn how to compartmentalize. Everything, Chalo, you talked about, that accident where the head was rolling, where the bodies were laying everywhere. Well, that's why we made a joke out of it. And Doug, choir practice, everybody would show up to choir practice. We drive home drunk many of times. And Bobby, thank God you weren't drinking at the time. I was, and I was part of our choir practices. But that's how we coped with the pain. That's how we cope with the suicides. That's how we with the accidents. That's how we cope with the murders, with the rapes. That's how we cope with finding the dead body. We could go on and on, but that's how. But one of the mechanisms that we did, guys, is we learned. Nobody taught us this. We learned how to compartmentalize, put everything in different compartments in our heart. But guess what? When we retired, that's why it's so important for us, people that are watching the show that are retired. It's so important to know that it's when we retired. I don't know about you guys, that everything that I compartmentalized in these canisters in my heart, they started leaking. they started leaking. And that's why, Doug, you had to take the trip that you did. That's why all of a sudden the dreams came. That's why the bagpipes, those are called triggers. That's why all these things are being manifested now that we're retired. We'll start off with you, Chalo. Tell us.
You know what? So with me, and that's the thing is, David, is that nobody really sits down and talks to you a year, 2 years, months, weeks before you retire. Especially after having a big old long career and a successful career, because you made it. And even if it's a short career and a guy goes out on injury, nobody sits down and talks to you and says, "Hey, you know what, dude? Expect this. It's normal. You're gonna feel like you're no longer of no use to anyone." For instance, me, I retire. They ask me to stay 3 months on extra as a contract chief because they were looking for a chief to come in. My mother-in-law was on, she was really sick with dementia, starting her transition last stage. She's already in hospice. So I'm doing everything, and it comes to a point where I said, this is it. My 3 months are up. I tell my city manager says, "Hey, dude, why don't you stick around 3 more months?" I was like, "Nah, you know what, dude, I'm done. I'm needed at home." At the same time, those extra 3 months got me I prepared myself. No help from the outside. No, psychologist, no, counselor. But I started thinking, dude, this is it, man. I reached the end of the road. It's time for me to move on. And every day after I retired, as it got closer to my 3 months commitment because I was a man of my word. I said, you know what, dude, Chalo, this is it, man. You need to start handing over a lot of stuff to everybody, dude. That's it. Don't answer your phone after certain hours. For sure, now you're gone. You got 2 months left. You got 1 month left. You got 2 weeks left. So what I did after that, I come and I become a full-time watching my mother-in-law. While my wife was at work, I told my wife, you know what? I'll tell you when to stop working. I think it's kind of soon for you to just, come home and spend time with your mom. You don't want to use up all that time right now. Let's use it as she gets closer. I got to spend a lot of time with my mother-in-law. And so I had a lot of fun with her. And that helped me with my PTSD because I had a purpose now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. You have to have a purpose.
My purpose was I'm watching my suegra, which I loved her very much. And she's watching me. I would do karaoke for her, and that's one of the reasons I kind of laid off the karaoke because I still haven't let go of that because my wife was my mother-in-law was my cheering squad. She was my audience, so that's bad.
That was your purpose.
That was my purpose, was her, dude. Yeah. After she passed, bro, then I started feeling it again. So the dreams started coming.
Yeah,
nightmares, stuff that I'm going to do. This happened 20 years ago. Why am I thinking about this? Is there something we could have done? No, there's nothing we could have done to prevent that. Are you sure? No, dude. I mean, why? I wonder how everybody else is doing. I was a sergeant at the time with some of these bad calls. I'm going like, man, you know what? I held my guys together. I had 7 guys under me. And I remember, dude, it was me that kept these guys from freaking doing something stupid. It was me, that did this. It was me that did that. But see, I didn't have anyone to really talk to. My wife's a dispatcher, and I thank God because I could talk to her on certain things, but not everything. I don't want to know everything. As you're trying to protect them, you're trying to protect your kids, trying to protect a lot of people from your bad calls. So, like I said, that was me, dude. That's what I went through, man. And I have a bunch of calls that they started popping up. Thank God, man. Like my faith grew stronger. I started going to church more, started to kind of factor, reading the scripture. A lot of worship music helped me, dude. And I was drinking a little bit, not too much, and then I stopped drinking. I just say, you know what, dude, I'm done with the whiskey. I'll drink once in a while, but not like before. And I just says, you know what, man, I don't need this, man. It's gonna be me, God, and my family, man. And I'm gonna put God first, my family first, and I'm not gonna go hang out with the boys and stuff like that. They're just drink. And another thing about hanging around with some of the guys is you bring back a lot of stuff that you already let go. You know what I'm saying? You really think Let go of it, dude. You say, you know what, dude, I'm done with that. And these guys say, hey, David, remember that call we had? It was so messed up. I said, dude, I was able to beat that. Yeah, you know what it says? You should be able to live your life, and somebody mentions it. But dude, when they were there and they take you back to it, dude, and you can actually smell the smells and everything.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, these guys are taking me back, bro. I don't need this, man. I'm moving forward. My wife and God and my wife and my kids. I don't need this. I'm not gonna hang with these guys anymore. Yeah, I'll go eat breakfast with them. I love having their breakfast and lunches, but hey, let's go drink. I said, dude, I know how it's gonna happen. Sometimes I go, but once they start getting into that stuff again, dude, I tell the guys, guys, I gotta go, bro. It's time for me to go. I mean, it's like it's an addict. It's an addiction. You lay off the heroin and then you start hanging with your friends, and then they want you, come on, bro, just do a little bit. Now you're back into being an addict again. An addict to stuff that you shouldn't be living that life no more. It's time for us to live our life.
Yeah. And you know what, Chalo? Your purpose now is your family, like you said, but you work full time. You work full time, and you know what? That gives you, and that's what we're trying to relay to you that are watching, that are retired. Find a job. Volunteer. You don't have to get paid. Volunteer at a hospice. Volunteer at a hospital. Volunteer at a football game. Volunteer in a boxing. Do something, but find purpose. With that said, go ahead, Chalo.
Real quick, and this is the job that I have. I tell my wife, I'm only going to keep it while she's working. She retires in 2 years. I said, if I can go 2 years, I'll go 2 years, and then that's it. Because now you're with my partner's with me, so now
that's right.
It's time to travel. Enjoy life.
Yeah. And that's your purpose, traveling.
My purpose is to get up and go. She says, hey, you know what? Let's go eat breakfast in Alpine at Janet's Cafe, Montana Cafe. Let's go. Hey, you know what? I feel like going to, let's go here today. Well, I packed the bags to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bobby.
Yeah, the purpose. You got to have a purpose. Do something, whether you're find a hobby. If you're working, I'm still working, little side jobs. I'm leaving tomorrow at noon. I'll be in Chattanooga for a week and Nashville. So I'm taking off again. So, but it's going back to the PTSD. Another thing that we also have to remember, we're human. We weren't born the day we showed up at the PD. We have a history, just like everybody else. And I'm telling you, my struggles, I've mentioned it before. Lost my dad before I was 4, lost my mom at age 10, grew up, in the barrio, we struggled. I mean, it was tough. And when I became and my mom remarried a very abusive guy, an alcoholic. So I saw it. And I remember when I became a cop, there were times that I would go to these calls and it would bring back those memories. And I had to do everything in my power not to strangle this guy, because I felt literally was thinking back as a child. And going back with I never even called him my stepdad. I called my mom's husband. But once my mom died, he went his way. Never saw him again until I was an adult. And when I ran into him, he was this towering man. He was literally a monster to me. I grew up wanting to kill him. And when I met him, he was little. I was like, what the hell happened to him? He didn't grow. And I made my peace with him. I made my peace. He died. He passed away. But when we come onto this department, we also have a whatever background we have, we bring it with us, and all those factors, come in. The other one I like to talk about is survivor's guilt. I gave a search warrant to a guy. I was in Narcs. A street crimes guy comes over to me and goes, hey, Bobby, I was a hot narc. You got anything? Yeah, here. He had given me one of his snitches. I gave the snitch back. Go do a paper. He's got a warrant on some Crips from LA. He got shot 5 times serving that search warrant. I got to the hospital and watched while they were working on him. He coded and they brought him back. He survived. But I remember I felt like I did, like what Doug's saying, Richard Foss. I thought, well, if I was still there, that would have never happened when Richard was killed. And you feel guilt, and I helped train Richard. When Richard came over, we took him out and taught him how to make street buys. And then now he went from being that to doing big multi-kilo cocaine deals. So we go through that, and I had dreams throughout my career. I had them throughout my career, but they intensified once I left, because when I retired young. I was 44. I was getting ready to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. I took 6 months off. I was going stir crazy, but I went back into the gym. I hired a personal trainer, was working out, stopped drinking, started because I started drinking towards the end of my career, stopped drinking, and got myself ready to do an overseas deployment. But then every time I would come back, then I was like, I missed that adrenaline. And to this day, I work in media. I do interviews. My job requires me to stay up to date, maintain contacts and everything else. But one final thing, I saw the PTSD with my son. My son was a senior in 9/11, ran off, joined the Marine Corps. And when he went to boot camp, he came back. When he came back from his first deployment, a combat deployment in Afghanistan, where he saw some serious fighting, he came back. We wanted to throw a party for him. We had a DJ. We moved the furniture. We were going to dance. He had changed. He did not. He just sat there, and later we talked about it. And I remember later on, he did this thing where he's like, I don't even have anything in common with my friends who are from the neighborhood. I can't even talk to them. And the only friends he says I have are my brothers. And he has lost a lot of friends to suicide. A lot of friends, a lot of his buddies have taken their lives, or they've drank themselves till they've ruined themselves. Yeah. But like I said, my son came back to his faith, got very strong in the Lord, and he's in a good position right now, very good position. But you have to stay focused, and now there's no shame in reaching out. If you're hurting, to me, we should now, us as retired cops, anybody active duty, there is no shame to reaching out to anybody. And I know you're going to leave our email addresses on there. Yes. If anybody ever wants to reach out, but that is to me is something very important. There is no shame to reaching out to anyone if you're struggling with any issues.
And you know what? You talked about purpose too, just like Chalo did. And we're going to get to you, Doug, right now. But guys, it reminds me of Ruben Nava, our chaplain. I mean, the guy retires as a detective sergeant with the sheriff's department after 30 plus years. As soon as he retires, he becomes a chaplain. And the most beautiful thing about that, Ruben, and I know you and your wife are watching it. We love you, brother. But you went back. That was your purpose. You, after leaving the department, you went back and today you are a police chaplain in East LA. That's what I'm talking about, everybody that's watching the show today. Find a purpose. Ruben Nava is a perfect example, and he today is a chaplain, the East LA substation, the sheriff's substation, and he's saving souls. He's saving police officers who are suffering from PTSD, and that's his purpose in life. And guys, we're going to get to you real quick, Doug, but if you ever need us for anything at all, if you ever think about committing suicide, if you ever need to talk to somebody, forget about the suicide, here's our emails address: Bobby Arce, Benny Cruz, David Contreras, Chalo Corrado, Sean Murphy, and Doug Collier. Please watch the show, put it on hold, and write down our emails. All you have to do, email us, and we will immediately get back to you. And if one of us doesn't, try the other one. One of us will get back to you immediately. Please write those down. Doug, it's all yours.
For me was for anybody who heard my story early on about a year ago, the first time I came on, I had a really hard time when I left the gang unit. I was a sergeant. I had a great team, probably one of the best teams there were, in my opinion. I was butting heads with the administration really, really hard. And I went back to patrol, and I thought that was going to fix it. And it just kept getting worse and worse, to the point to where I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't stay at the PD any longer. I didn't want to quit, and I didn't want to retire that early. So I decided that I was going to do the overseas deployment for police officers, like Bobby's been doing a lot of, and I ended up going to Afghanistan. So I took a leave of absence from the PD, and when I did, some of the folks threw me a party. Of course, it was at a bar downtown, and it was nice seeing a lot of guys. But I think a lot of the guys were there just because there was a party. It wasn't they weren't there because of me. And I know some of you guys have experienced that before, like at retirement parties. They just go because there's free booze and free food. And then I went to Afghanistan, and I thought that was going to fix things for me. I thought long and hard. We had my wife and I and my two boys. My youngest son was still in high school. In fact, he was a senior, and we had some deep conversations about me going. And ultimately, Kim thought it was a good idea, that I needed to get out of my own headspace. I needed to have a purpose, because I'd lost my purpose at the PD. I just didn't have it any longer. And but what I found when I went over was I found another type of camaraderie, but the dreams that I dreamed about before, that I talked about before, not be able to pull the trigger, were still occurring, because I hadn't gone to the DA's office yet. So I was still having those dreams. But what I found myself doing was I was seeking out investigations and seeking out assignments that I knew for sure were going to put me in a position of, I was going to be in harm's way. Every one of them. There was no doubt about it. And I actually got pulled aside by one of the 06s in our shop. And he asked me, he goes, "Why are you always volunteering for these things? There's other guys in the shop to do that, and we have military officers that can do that. Why are you doing it?" I says, "Well, because that's what I came here to do." He kind of touched on it a little bit, but he got me in touch with a chaplain, and I got to talk to the chaplain. And it just so happens at that time, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, who I love dearly, they sent me a study Bible where you read out of Psalms, the Old Testament, and the New Testament every day. There's a group of and you learn. So of course I got it kind of late, so I had to catch up. So one of my off days, I caught up on my readings, but I took that everywhere I went. I made sure I took my time to do those readings. And I'm not a scholar, I'm not a biblical scholar or anything, but it really brought a lot of solace to what I was feeling. And when I came home, I don't know what I was expecting when I came home. I mean, all the guys on my team, they met me at the airport with my wife and my kids, and we all went to dinner. And it was probably the best night I'd had in probably 20 years, just to see those faces and chat with them. And then me trying to, and then I wasn't welcome back at the PD. So I just started spiraling out of control again. And that's when I ended up going to the DA's office. But I still struggle with that. And I shared a couple weeks ago on my trip, I go through those moments of that melancholy. Well, I get down on myself, or I got so. But my wife is great. I can talk to her about anything, and she's usually the one that pulls me out of my funk. And I got good friends. Like I see Chris is on there. I talk to Chris once or twice every week. I know, Chris, you're not the only one who doesn't like big crowds anymore. And
exactly, yes.
Driving on the freeway. I just,
Patience.
and you can always tell. No, I don't have it anymore. I get frustrated with things. I still, when I go into restaurants, I still find the corner to put my back in the corner so I can watch all entrances and exits. It never goes away. No. We all do that. It's like it's ingrained, but you can't even enjoy your meal without looking up every half a second to see who's coming and who's going.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've been out with friends before who weren't police officers, and which is great. I think if you have a group of friends that weren't police officers and you don't always talk about police stuff, seek them out, find those folks, because there's other things in life besides talking about police work. But they asked me, they're like, what are you doing? I said, well, I could tell you everybody that's coming on out of this restaurant since we sat here and what car they got into in the driveway.
Yeah.
The parking lot. And they're like, what? I go, that's what we did for, over 30 years, almost 35 years. That's what I did. But you got to find that thing. You got to find that purpose, like you guys were talking about. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It doesn't. Me, I like to travel. My wife and I love to travel. I love exploring. And my thing is churches. I love finding churches. And I love going in and sitting by myself in the church for 15, 20 minutes. I just talk to God. And that's my thing. But that's what gets me through the days. And
that's beautiful, Doug.
And talking to you guys. Guys. So, we all have our own thing, but you got make sure you reach out to somebody, anybody, and realize it just doesn't go away. You're always going to have it. It's how you deal with it. It's how you deal with it that counts. So, anyway.
Guys, you brought something up, Doug, that I think that we need to address in the future. I think once every 2 or 3 months, we should have these type of sessions where we talk about, everybody thinks that PTSD only comes from the ugly scenes we went through, but I can tell you several people that suffer. Steve Duncan, I interviewed him once, and his PTSD was administration.
Yep.
How administration treated him. Sean Murphy, everything, how he was treated. So you know what, guys? We need to have an episode on not just the terrible things, but how some of us, I luckily was never treated like that, but I know a lot of people that today suffer because of how they were treated by administration. And I know, Chalo, you have something to say about that.
No, I'm just saying, I was on house arrest for 11 and a half months, bro.
Yes.
And it's house arrest because my admin leave was home from 8 to 12, 1 to 5. You can't go nowhere. You can't do anything. You got to be in your property. And if I needed to go somewhere, I had to call them and say, hey, I need to go here. I need to go there. And I knew that they wanted to get me for insubordination. So that they were hoping I would slip. Yeah. But you're by yourself here. Your kids are at school, your wife's at work, and you're by yourself, and everything's going through your mind on how they want to get you. And people calling you saying, hey, bro, we back you up, bro, but be careful because I hear they're trying to do this. Hey, I hear now they went into your office and they're looking for something. Hey, I hear they went into your computer again looking for something. And this whole time I'm going, and it's like, I don't have anything, but I'm going, they're going to plant something on my computer. They're going to put something in my office. But you know what?
And Chando, what a way. We're fighting crooks. We're fighting cartels. We're fighting gang members. We're fighting drug dealers. We're fighting rapists. And now fighting administration.
Your worst
administration.
Your worst fight is your command staff.
Yep.
Yeah.
The hardest fight I ever had in my entire life. I've been in some knockdown, drag out fights. I've had bones broken. You name it. And that was the hardest fight I ever did. And then I felt guilty because it affected my squad.
Yeah.
Because I was their supervisor.
Yeah.
So, and you try to insulate your squad, but they know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. And it's
hey, guys, you know what? Time has gone against us. I'll tell you, man, we could go on and on and on, but we need to have more episodes. Maybe every 2 months we could get together and just go over PTSD, our experiences, administration, and so forth. But guys, we have one more video, and we're going to end the show with that video. I just want to do a quick announcement. Bobby, if you could just tell us next week who we have and on Ash Wednesday. Here we go.
Oh, we got next week for Ash Wednesday. We got Hector Berreyes is going to be here, retired DEA agent, a legendary undercover agent, and he knew Richie Foss since Richie was a kid. So he's going to talk to us about how he helped or encouraged him to join DEA, and tell us some Richie stories. Because June 30th is the sadly, the anniversary date of Richard's murder that happened here in Glendale, June 30th, 1994.
And you know what? The good thing, he's not going to talk. We're not even going to discuss the last narc. It's all going to be about honoring Richard Foss, DEA agent Richard Foss. I can't wait to hear the stories. And we also have next Tuesday, we have a prison gangs, California Department of Correction Rehabilitation Institution gang investigator, Mike Alvarez. I believe he worked in Pelican Bay for many years. He's going to be with us next week on Ash Wednesday. It's going to be an outstanding episode. Guys, with that said, we're going to end our show with every month, we're going to honor our forgotten heroes. And that's what this show was all about. We hope and we pray that something that we said is going to change somebody's mind or is going to help them seek or help them seek professional help. Chalo, last words.
Man, you know what? And we've all survived our careers because of integrity, man. First of all, God just, he's awesome. Our families, and then the fact that we all have integrity, man. That's how you survive something like this. So,
Bobby,
stay focused. Keep your eyes on God. Nothing is too big for him. He's always there to solve anything we come to. Just hand it over to him.
Amen.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Doug,
Just talk to him. Talk to God. He'll answer your prayers. It may not be the way you want it, but there's a purpose to it. So take it, run with it, and then just be happy. Have a happy life. Enjoy yourselves.
and you know, my end is I left the Lord for 36 years while I was a cop. In 1984, when I left the rehabilitation program, I left the Lord for 36 years. 5 years ago, the Lord touched my heart, broke me down, and I wept like a child and just received me again in his arms. And you know what? No matter what you're going through, believe that Jesus Christ loves you. Believe that Jesus Christ loves you. Accept him as your Lord and Savior. Live for him and live a purpose-driven life. And guys, like I said before, you know what? Everybody that's committed suicide, if they could only have waited 1 hour, if they only had waited 1 day, and please, if you know somebody that's suffering, please call them. That one phone call may make a difference in their life, and we will never see their picture on our video. Here we go, the last video.
When the day is done, hold me close. Promises are ours to keep. All the clouds would disappear.
So tell me how it is that a hero needs saving, how he needs that support to keep his roof from caving, holding tight on that 45 as a tear drops from his eye. Picturing his mom is all that's kept him alive, cause he's buried his friends and he's buried his thoughts. Suppress these demons inside until his stomach's in knots. I see you on your knees, so please let me give you help. Pick you up, lift you up and put you on that top shelf. Trying to improve, but he keeps dealing with this feeling like he can't push up any harder. His head has hit the ceiling. He's seen so many hurt and so many in trouble, so who's to help him keep his world from turning to rubble? Time and time again he's witnessed summer sun on the pavement, yet the evil that he sees is on TV is entertainment, telling him to be strong through it all, but these thoughts he's still braving. So tell me again how a hero needs saving.
When the day is done,
When that day is done,
hold me
hold me
close.
close, baby, yeah, never let me go.
Promises are ours to keep.
Promise to return home back to you.
All the clouds would disappear.
Skies on my horizon inside. Give a kiss to his boy and a kiss to his girl. Each day he walks away from these things in his world, expected to be the rock solid from bottom to top. He's so hard in the streets, but inside he feels so soft. He's dodged bullets and knives, stopped men from beating wives. But boom, someone tries to take his gun and now he took a life. And all you do is stare, spread rumors, he don't care. Replaying that moment, can't disown it with a gun to his hair. It ain't fair, he knew when he started he'd go so far. You had a long day at work he failed at CPR. His motivation's gone, no more fire in his eyes. Went from peaceful nights to dreams of crime scenes and cries. He never could guess his friend would take 2 to the chest. But forget the pain, he pushes back like bring on the rest. As you're planning your weekend, he's planning out his headstone engraving. So go and tell me again how a hero needs saving.
When the day is done,
When that day is done, yeah, yeah, yeah.
hold me
Hold me
close.
close, baby, yeah, never let me go.
Promises are ours to keep.
Promise to return home back to you. Yeah, yeah.
All the clouds would disappear.
Blue skies on my horizon inside. Yeah, yeah.
Who can say where the road will go as the world goes round and round? Wipe away your tears, baby. I am home.
We've lost too many heroes to the war in their minds. We must do something better, we can't keep leaving them behind. Are you picturing death or is death picturing you? The struggle's real inside, so let me tell you what you'll do. Rise back up, get back up and tell us how you feel. You can't bottle it up any longer, show us that it's real. Like a bird set free, now you see how life can be so amazing. Nothing feels better than saving a hero that needed saving.
When the day is done, hold me close. Promises are ours to keep. All the clouds would disappear. When the day is
When
done,
that day is done, yeah, yeah, yeah.
hold me
Hold me
close.
close, baby, yeah, never let me go.
Promises are ours to keep.
Promise to return home back to you. Yeah, yeah.
All the clouds would disappear.
Blue skies on my horizon inside.